Welcome to the Foundations of the IEP Training Series. This recording is part of a series of videos on IEP compliance. This recording should be viewed in conjunction with the present levels video from the Foundations of the IEP series in order to get a full picture of the expectations for compliance in the area of present levels. The present levels are the foundation of the IEP, and the findings are part of the present levels. The findings are the part of the present levels where we find the specific data that lead to measurable goals. This provides us with the baseline for our progress monitoring. This tells us where we are currently. The goals will tell us where we want to be. So our findings are going to define specifically where the student is now, and even more specifically, the baseline for the goal. Only needs that will lead to goals and services are included in the findings portion of the IEP. Findings are your baseline data that describe where the student is presently functioning at the time the IEP was written. In order for the findings to serve as a baseline for the goals, they must use the tool that the goal uses for measurement. If the goal is being measured using an oral fluency probe, then the findings must have results from that oral fluency probe showing where the student is now. There are specific examples of this coming. Findings must include numbers. Findings are objective measurements of a student's current performance. The findings include numbers regardless of what is being measured, whether it's articulation, behavior, writing, reading, or math. Findings are based on repeated formative assessments. One assessment is not a realistic representation of a student's ability. Regular, repeated measures are part of good instruction. Findings are directly tied to annual goals and progress monitoring and include both academic and functional skills. Here's a screenshot from Enrich that shows the part of the IEP for academic achievement. Each portion has a prompt that will tell the team what needs to go in that section specifically. Be sure all necessary fields are completed. Remember the dates for assessment must be current. Academic achievement can be defined as the level of knowledge and development in a subject or skill that the student is currently able to perform. Academic achievement generally refers to a student's performance in academic areas, but the definition could vary depending on the student's circumstance or situation. Here is a screenshot from the portion that shows functional performance. The functional portion looks very similar to academic achievement, but it says functional performance. Functional means non-academic, as in routine activities of everyday living. This clarification should help IEP teams understand that the purpose of the IEP is to prepare children and disabilities for life after school. Teaching children how to function in the world is just as important as teaching academic skills. This could include social development or the degree and quality of a student's relationships with peers and adults, feelings about self, and social adjustment to school and community environments. It could also include things like physical development or the degree and quality of the student's motor and sensory development, health, vitality, and physical skills, or any limitations that affect the learning process. In order for the findings to serve as a baseline for the goals, they must use the tool that the goal uses for measurement. If the goal is being measured using an oral fluency probe, then the findings must have results from that oral fluency probe showing where the student is right now. Here is an example using the highlighter test. The highlighter test is an excellent strategy to check for IEP compliance. When checking an IEP to see if it is compliant, you can first go to the goal section of the IEP. So if the goal in Enrich says, in 32 weeks, when presented with a passage from a second grade reading text, Sam will read aloud 48 words per minute with less than 2 errors on 3 consecutive trials as measured by oral fluency assessments. The part of the goal that I would then highlight or focus on is the data that says Sam will read aloud 48 words per minute with less than 2 errors. That's the behavior we want to see, and that is the outcome where we want him to end. So in order to figure out where he is now, I need to do an oral fluency assessment. So then I'm going to go to the findings, and they must include a version of, on 3 oral fluency assessments using a second grade reading text, Sam read aloud an average of 36 words per minute with 8 errors. So now the findings have told me exactly where Sam is now, and the goal has told me exactly where I want Sam to be. Remember from earlier, findings are your baseline data and describe where the student is presently functioning at the time the IEP was written. In order for the findings to serve as a baseline for the goals, they must use the tool that the goal uses for assessment. Here, the goal is being measured using an oral fluency probe, and the findings have results from that oral fluency probe showing where Sam is right now. It was also stated earlier that the findings must include numbers. The numbers above are in bold text and underlined, and it shows you what I mean by this. The numbers are an objective measure of the student's abilities. Here is another example of the highlighter test. The goal in Enrich says, by the end of the IEP, when given a randomly selected worksheet of single-digit multiplication problems, Dean will write 23 correct digits in 2 minutes in 3 out of 4 attempts as measured by work samples. So if you were going to perform the highlighter test, what would you highlight in the goal? What is the behavior that you want to see in the end? You go back to the findings, and the findings state, on 3 randomly selected worksheets of single-digit multiplication, Dean was able to write an average of 7 correct digits in 2 minutes. So what is our baseline? What is our data? What tells us where Dean is right now? If you said that you would highlight in the goal, Dean will write 23 correct digits in 2 minutes, you would be correct. Then if you highlighted that Dean was able to write 7 correct digits in 2 minutes in the baseline, you were right again. This is a strategy that you should use regularly to check the compliance of IEPs at your school. You can use this with all goals in all areas. Many school coordinators struggle when checking the compliance of speech and related service present levels, findings, and goals. The above strategy works even when the services are specialized or are out of your area of expertise. This was part of the Foundations of the IEP training series. This was the findings portion and should be reviewed or viewed in conjunction with the present levels. Other areas include meeting notices, annual goals, progress monitoring, services, transition, and prior written notice. We hope that you view all of these and find what you need to answer any compliance needs.